Hi everyone, welcome to Painting with Darren Cornell. My name is Darren Cornell. I'm glad you can join me today. Today we're going to paint some Buffy the Vampire Slayer and enjoy some quiet relaxing chit chat. I'm glad you could join me, so grab your brushes and let's do some painting. Everyone's been telling me I'm starting to turn into the British Bob Ross lately. So, I don't know. I'm starting to think maybe I should actually be like Bob Ross. Hi everyone, Darren Cornell here, as I just said. We are up to part 17 in the Buffy and Spike painting tutorial exclusive to Patreon. We got Spike finished, we've done all that. Spike is finished, la la la. And we are now back on Buffy after quite a while because we were concentrating on Spike. So let's work on Buffy. Let me check I've got everything going. Music is on. Counter is ticking up, which means we are recording. Volume is on. I don't care how ridiculous that opening segment sounded. I'm not redoing it. So I will just have to live with the fact that you all saw me being ridiculous. I can live with that. Okay, so microphone is enough out the way. Hopefully you can hear me alright. So oh great, now I start coughing now that I've pressed record. 1 second. I totally should have done myself a coffee, which I didn't. I've got an empty mug. Okay, fine. Fine. Let's just get on with things then. Right, let's bring this in to, I don't know, about there maybe. Yeah, that should be okay. Let's get me in the corner. Bam, bam, bam. Right. So, Buffy. This is where we were up to with Buffy. We'd done some skin, we'd done some hair, we'd done some stuff. It's time to get moving and carry on. So, let me have a look. I've got a bunch of Buffy pictures up in front of me. Let me drag that one over to this side of the screen because I want to have a look. Sorry, I know you can't see what I'm doing. I've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pictures of Buffy up on my screens at the moment. I just wanted to drag one across. The things that are on that screen are a little bit hidden behind the microphone because of where it's clamped to the desk. I can see them, but I sort of sometimes have to look around things. And there was one that I wanted to see. Oh, sorry, I thought I heard a noise. It might have been the music, the piano and the music. I thought I heard a drilling sound. Or I'm going crazy, which might be happening, and that would be quite interesting on camera. So get ready for that. So I just moved a picture from that screen over to that screen so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to do some hair today. Now, one thing that I want to do, if you can see here, we put some darker colour in this bit because she has, it's where her bleached blonde hair has sort of grown out a little bit and there's some dark in here. Now we're going to go back and add more dark to that, but we want to, let me just tilt that down a little bit. One thing that you always see, and it's often not put on action figures, if somebody has quite a straight hair parting, you can usually see the scalp, down that line, and that's usually never put on. Now, this isn't a super straight, fine, exact line of a part. But I still feel like there should be a bit of something there just to give the impression of the fact that her hair has been parted. So I'm I'm gonna do... You know what? I'm gonna do leather brown and pale flesh. I don't want it to be tanned flesh because the hair on the scalp is never tanned because it's always covered by hair and it doesn't get the sun. So if you ever see someone's scalp through the hair, it's always pale, and that's because it doesn't get the sun. So I want it to be pale, but I want it to also be a little bit... I don't want it to be grey, but I want it to have a hint of just not being skin colour, not being, you know, normal skin colour. So I'm going to mix, instead of mixing it with tanned flesh and pale flesh, I'm going to mix it with leather brown and pale flesh, and I'm hoping that'll give me the right colour that I want. Where's the focus on this camera? Let me bring in my camera settings. Camera settings. Okay, there we go. Okay, I guess that's okay. I might need to adjust that camera because it seems that it's in focus there. I've actually got the focus set out as far as it goes, but it's in focus there and it's starting to go out of focus there, but I can't focus it any further down. I wonder if that's because I've got it zoomed in. No, focus. A little bit out of focus. I mean, I could bring that lower down, that would shorten the distance, but I try to keep that up there because it stops, if this light is a bit higher up, it stops the chances of that weird strobing effect that we sometimes get, that you might have seen. And also, what was the also? I had it also and I've forgotten what the also was. Stops the strobing, and also, it also keeps this camera here that I'm pointing at. If you look at me in the corner, don't look at the big screen, look at me in the corner. This camera here, it keeps this camera out of my face, so if I want to talk to you, you can see me. Whereas if I bring this down to get the focus a bit closer, hi, you can't see me and I have to do that, and it's silly. So, you keep that up here. With the zoom in, that works fine. But I just noticed it's only focusing when it gets up to there, which is fine because that's my normal height. Maybe that's why I did it, because I took these cameras apart and I tweaked the lenses to make them focus exactly where I needed them. But maybe I tweaked it so that the furthest away it would focus was here, which is where I'm painting. Just means that you can't see there. Okay, fine, I'll just lift things up. It's fine. Don't have time to be dealing with stuff like that now. Okay, so a bit of leather brown, load of pale skin, because I got too much leather brown. Let's get some... I was gonna get some flow enhancer, but the lid was on. Okay, so got a bit of flow enhancer on there. Let's chuck a bit of water on there. Now, I only want this to be thin. It might be alright if I do that with a small brush. Maybe it'll be alright. Okay, so let's grab a brush. Let's get some of that on a thin brush. Now then, where do I want it? Do I want the whole... You know what, I will do it along the whole length, and then I can decide when I'm painting the hair if there's any bits of it that I don't want to show, and I can just paint the hair over them. Okay, so it's just a little bit of a pale line there. And it sort of looks a bit weird and artificial at the moment because it's not got any hair going up to it. It just looks like a pale line that's been painted on top of a head. But when I have the hair going up to it and I've painted bits of hair sort of slightly over that light bit, it'll look a bit more realistic. Okay, that'll do for now. I'll do for now. So just rinse that off because that's one of my new brushes and I want to keep my new brushes new if I can. Okay. Having one of those days where my beard and my moustache just doesn't feel right. No matter what I do with it, it just feels... Sometimes I don't even... I can't notice it. It's just part of my face. And sometimes it just... I don't know. It feels like I've got like an artificial glue-on wig and it's not been put on right. And it's just like, oh, it's just getting in the way. I'm having one of those days today. Okay, so I've done a little bit of that. Let us... So we want to make some of the hair darker. But I tell you what I'll do before we do the hair darker. Let's add some more blonde. So I'm looking at over here because I've got some pictures of the time of the episodes that this figure and this hairstyle was taken from. So I'm just looking at the colour of everything. Now it needs to be more pale than that. What I'm going to do is do some dry brushing all over it to lighten the highlighty bits, and then we're going to go in with individual tiny brush painted hairs, both dark and light, and add more highlights on top of the highlights and more shadows and all the rest of it. But I think I want to just make sort of this colour that we did, which is a good base colour. I want to add more highlights on top of that. So let's do... Now I can't remember how I got her blonde colour. Because doing blonde, you've got to be careful that it doesn't look yellow and that it doesn't look white. So I'm trying to remember and I can't how we did hair colour. Okay, so let's see. I am going to use some... There you go. I'm going to get some cream. Let's close these. I mean, the pale flesh would actually probably be a good one because it's got a little bit of yellow in it anyway. Eeny, meeny, miny. You know what, I'm going to keep the leather brown open. I'm going to open some cream. Oh my god, that's full of gunk. Look at this. It's what happens when I dip brushes into it because I'm lazy. How can I... Let's see, what can I use? I'm just going to use the back end of... It's a dead brush basically. And I wonder if I can use that to just pick up a load of that paint. Wipe that off onto there. Go back in and blop and get a load more. Blip. Because the paint hasn't started drying out yet or anything, it's just had a load of other paint put in. There you go, that's most of it gone. It of course does mean now that I've got a whole load of tissue that I can't use, and that I have to be careful because I will lean on that if I'm not careful. So I'm going to fold that over. We can carry on from there, because that's just a bit of brown from whatever we were doing last time. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit of yellow ochre, and I must remind myself next time I buy some paint to get some yellow ochre, because I am almost out of this stuff. I've been using this stuff for years, this one, because I only use yellow ochre a little bit at a time. So it's lasted, but it's on its last legs. Look at my little yellow ochre mountain. Hang on, how can I do this? There you go. Look at that. Oh, okay, right. So let's get some yellow ochre. You know what? Let's mix it into the colour that we already had, because there's a bit of a browny colour. Might as well do that. Now let's get a load of cream. I'm just going to stick it in the corner, so I'm keeping the colour relatively clear, so I'm not mixing too much colour back into the pot. Now let's mix it up. You want more yellow ochre in that. That might do. It's very reflecty. There you go. Might work. Let's have a go. If it doesn't work, it's okay, we just redo it. Right, use that brush because it's dead, but it's sort of nicely round at the tips, which means I can use it for dry brushing. So I'm just dabbing some onto the brush, wiping some off, and then get rid of most of it on there, but not all of it. I'll have some. And let's start at the back, behind the bit, because there's a hairpiece that goes on here. There's this thing, which I've just realised I should have been painting at the same time, shouldn't I? Oh, you know what? I'll do that afterwards. We don't need to do it twice. You can see the difference of I painted it with one colour, I think, or was that the original colour? You know what? I can't remember. It's so long ago since we did Buffy. We've been doing Spike forever. Anyway, that's either the original colour of the plastic thing or the colour that I painted it at the very, very beginning. And you can see the difference with all the different layers that we've done on this one and we haven't done on this one. Which I probably should have, just to make them so I know that they're equal. But it's fine because I will just do that one separately. But all this bit here is behind that hairpiece. So what we do here is easy to hide. That's not a bad colour. Okay. So I do that. Get rid of some of the stuff there. Now then, let's see. So let's do some... here. Now this is quite dry. And the paint goes quite dusty when you do it very dry. But it's okay because we're going over it all with sort of, what was I saying before? Individually painted highlights and shadows and stuff. So any bits that look, you know, a bit messy or a bit not brilliant, we'll be going over them and we can neaten them up anyway. Okay, not happy with how that worked out. I don't know if it's because it's a very old brush or just I've done the wrong colour, but that paint has gone on and sort of looks a weird grey green colour, and I don't know why. Okay, that's fine. I only did a thin layer of it anyway. Okay, so let's not do the dry brushing thing. Let's resort to painting. Fine. See, mistakes happen. Things go wrong. And I could hide my professional ego and edit that bit out, but I'm not gonna, because A, I don't have an ego. I never have. And B, did I say A or 1? B or 2, whichever one I said. I've just noticed my beard shakes when I do that. Oh, I'm easily distracted. Oh, I'm like a puppy. Ego. Don't have an ego. And you guys seeing me guy doing things wrong is kind of important, because it's good to know that people who are supposed to be good at what they do can cock things up. Hi. Alright, let's look at some colours. I've got yellow ochre, we know what that is. I've got golden yellow, which to be honest is a bit luminous. I don't think I'll use that. I thought it was just going to be like egg yellow, and it looked like it, and I painted it on and it just turned into this sort of luminous yellowy green weird thing, so I don't use that. We've got some leather brown, got some, you know what, let's get rid of the cream and let's go to pale flesh. That might help. And just looking at various, it's gotta be, that's gotta work fine. You know what, let's try this again. I'm trying to remember what colour I used when I did, it's years ago when I did the last one now, Legolas, you know, from Lord of the Rings, firing his bow and arrow, and I painted his hair, but I've done a load of them. And I'm trying to remember what colour, because he had blonde hair with sort of very blonde highlights. And I'm trying to remember what colour the highlights were. I'm sure it was yellow, sort of like a yellowy ochre colour overall. But then the highlight bits were, I'm sure they were just brown with mixed with cream or something. Okay. Let's try this again. So I'm going to do this on a different thing because that one started to dry up now. And I don't want it being all dried up because everything just goes chalky and weird. Okay, so I've just done some yellow ochre with a bit of pale flesh, and straight away that's almost the colour that was on that, you know, originally. So I think this is heading in the right track. Now the thing is, this should theoretically be exactly the same colour. When I'm done with this, end up being the same colour. This is not picking up any paint. Come on, paint on the brush. Thank you. This should end up being the same colour. It's sort of just a cream pale flesh colour, but with a bit of yellow ochre in it. It's sort of the same. Maybe just the difference is dry brushing it. Maybe that brush that I used to dry brush is no good if I'm doing a colour that's almost white. Maybe the brush has got, I don't know, remnants of an old colour or something that I've done on it, and that was coming off, which is what made everything go weird and green and stuff. Okay, so that's quite yellow. Blah blah blah. Okay, so I'm looking at all these different pictures. Right, I'm trying to do two different things here. I'll do it in the bottom of that one. So, leather brown and yellow ochre. I need more yellow ochre. Remind me to buy yellow ochre. Like, seriously, remind me, because I will forget. Okay, so leather brown with a yellow ochre. Let's get more yellow ochre in there. Let's water this down. Okay, so I'm making the yellowy base colour here. It could actually do with being a bit lighter, so I'm going to stick some cream in that, but I don't want it to be light like this bit here. That bit. I just want it to be a good light blondish colour, so I can put on top of the colour that we've got there and then do highlights on top of that. I don't know if it's going to work. I maybe should have watched the videos from previously, from when I did the hair originally, so I knew what colours I'd done. Maybe that's the problem. It's the fact that it's been so long since we... and I'm mixing darker colour into this light stuff now. The fact that it's been so long since we last painted Buffy, because we were focusing on Spike, that I completely can't remember what I did with the hair, and so everything that I'm trying is just not matching now. Okay, right, let's grab a brush. Any brush. Right, now there's no set pattern, or there's no good side shots that I can see. I know the front bit I want to be... Alright, you know what, I'm going to paint colour on this, and I'm going to go back afterwards with shadow. So I'm aware of the fact that it will look bland and wanting for definition, and we will do that. We'll go back and add some colour. I'm just picking out, the hair is sort of sculpted in separated chunks. You can see those are all the lines, so I'm just picking out some of those and going over them with this yellowy colour that I've just mixed up. And what we'll do this, and we'll go over with some highlights on the top of them, and then we'll go over with some browns, and we'll go over with some shadows. And that should give us a good look of what we want. Now the underneath won't matter as much because it'll be hidden behind that hair piece, and also most of it's going to be in shadow, so I'm going to go over that with a lot of the darker colours, but it's worthwhile adding some of this colour onto it, so at least it's got a good base, and you know, feels like sorry, painting and thinking and trying to talk at the same time. So when I add the shadows and the stuff that's hidden, it at least looks like it's hidden in a realistic way, because it will be on top of that colour. We're not just saying, well, that's just all hidden anyway, so we don't need to do anything to it. And that's true, and you could probably get away with it, but we know it's there, and it's not just a case of we know it's there, so it has to be done even though nobody else ever sees it. Someone could see it. You can turn the head upside down and you can see what's under there. So it's better, even though it's mostly going to be just shadow, to get that base colour in and then add the shadows on top of that, and any bits that are not shadowed over, you will have that right colour there. That was a really long-winded way of saying that. That's what happens when I'm painting and I'm trying to think about what I'm doing, and I'm trying to think about, okay, what colours am I doing next, and I'm trying to think about what would make this look right, and I'm trying to think about, okay, where do I need to paint this colour, and usually I do all that when I'm here painting by myself and I'm not talking, so I can think about it all without having to also carry on talking, which is sort of difficult for me. Okay, so you see the variation in colours. That it looks a bit drastic at the moment. Once that's been mixed in, because her hair colour in different seasons, she has different hair colour. Sometimes it's just flat yellow, sometimes it's lighter, darker, sometimes it's got more highlights and more shadow, sometimes it's got more, there's more roots grown out when her hair's been bleached and then allowed to grow out for a bit. So it's just finding the look that you want, and the look that we're going for here is sort of a bit separated, and there's quite white highlight bits in them with the yellowy blonde stuff, and then with darker bits underneath, so we are replicating that. Now I don't have any reference pictures for this side, but I can sort of see the front and the top on the pictures that I've got, so I am just going to go with what will make it look good. Am I doing this on cam? Sorry, I wasn't paying any attention to the webcam, and I don't know if I was doing that on screen or not. Yeah, I should have been. I think we're okay. I need for you all to have like a buzzer, and when I do something wrong, which, let's face it, is probably a lot of the time, You push your buzzer and I get an electric shock up my arse or something because there's a pad on my seat. And anytime I'm doing something wrong and I'm not even looking at the camera, you can just go, eh, and I'll be like, ah, what the fuck? But I'll know. We need to sort that out. Actually, that could be the Patreon tier at the top, whatever the top tier is. Control of the electric shock mechanism. Oh no, I sort of want to do that now. That's bad. Don't be giving me silly ideas. Okay, so this building up of... I'm actually quite happy that I think I've... what's the word? Recovered. It's not even a difficult word. From when I did the dry brush and I just thought, oh my god, that's just horrible and wrong and what the hell. And then we did different colours and all of a sudden it's looking good now. So... okay, so that's quite yellow, so there's going to be more white painted in, highlight bits, there's going to be more shadows. I think that's going to look good. Because I've seen some repaints of this head where they've tried to do that, but it looks very artificially yellow. And we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to make it look like bleached blonde hair. And yes, bleached blonde, it's artificial, but it looks like blonde hair. Not, well, not that. So, sort of that mixed with that. That's where I've seen some from years gone by when other people were painting this thing. So I'm just going over again with the same colour, but just on some bits, and it'll, if I go over the same colour with this bit, it'll strengthen the colour but also add another layer of hair detail. And when we go over it with shadow stuff later, like a shadow wash, I suppose you'd call it, it'll pick out more of the detail, and because we're going to go in and do individual hairs, and these bits where I'm painting the same colour on top of the same colour, so you've got like a thin layer of the colour on the bottom, that's a certain thickness and a certain colour, and then when that's dried and you go back with the same colour on top but only on parts of that, it gives it, it separates it and it gives it an extra bit of detail that you didn't have, and just adds extra little bit of hair, a little bit of extra detail, which is what we want. Nope, not doing it on camera. Nobody buzzed me. Yeah, we totally need to do that. Need to do that, and I need to do some live painting sessions, so when I do things wrong, you actually can buzz me in real time. Oh, I dread to think how you would misuse that. I'd never get any painting done, you'd just be constantly buzzing her. Just because it's funny. It does sound funny though. Okay, starting to look good. So we compare that to the flat colour, which is sort of flat yellow. This is starting to get depth, and yes, it looks very stripy at the moment, but that's going to mellow out once we put sort of shadows all over it and highlights all over it. And if we need to, we can go back with a sort of a very thin wash of, well, sort of this colour that we're working with now, and do a thin wash of it all over it, and it might tone it down. But we can do that if we need to do it. But this is a good start to what we're doing. Okay. Let me wash that brush. And there's a loose single hair right to the front of this brush that I just want to cut off, because it's a single hair that's sticking out beyond all the other hairs, and it shouldn't be there. There you go. Oh, excuse me. No, that's fine. Okay. So as soon as we mixed it, let's go in with some of this yellowy colour, which is quite yellow, but we can still use it because we're going to go in with the white stuff on top if we need to. Sorry, not talking again. So we're just adding highlight stripes on top of all of that. And on my preview camera, in person, it looks more like someone who's had their hair bleached with highlights and stuff. On camera, it looks, I don't know, like a striped banana giraffe or something. I know there's no such thing as a banana giraffe, but it's kind of what it looks like. So I'm hoping in person how it looks is closer to how it's actually going to look when it's done, and not what I'm seeing on camera, which looks quite weird. But we're not done with it yet, so there's more work to come. Slow building it up, and I know it's a bit boring, especially when I forget to talk. Which is quite a lot, because I'm focusing and I'm not doing a lot different, and it's just sort of slow building up of colours and layers. And when I'm doing a lot of that, and a lot of it's repetitive, and sometimes my brain can't think of anything to say, it also forgets that I'm supposed to be saying anything. And sometimes my brain just goes, yeah, I'm going to shut up now and let you paint. And that's great for me, but probably boring for you. Although hopefully not too much. Oops, that was a bit thick there. Well, that is starting to look good. Looks weird and stripy, but there's going to be shadows or roots added all along this bit, along that line that we painted, to make it look like the bleached hair has grown out a bit. I'm probably going to go over bits, so there's sculpted details here that I sort of want to pick out, but I don't want to make them too stripy. So I might do a shadow wash to pick out some of these. Or I might go the opposite way and do a wash of something like that colour over the whole thing. So we've got the shadows and the roots and the shadow bit. I might pick out some shadow bits. So I'm not doing a wash over the whole thing, which is my first plan, so that every sculpted line had shadow. I might just pick out certain bits. Like, see the way that's a dark line of the original colour? I might just get something like that and just pick out bits so it's like that. Oh, I just heard my nose squeaking there when I breathed in. Oh, gone now, okay. Totally distracted. And I might do the shadows and then do a wash maybe of the overall yellow colour just to tie it all in. I'll think of something. But I think next I'm going to do some of the... It'll probably be the same colour actually. Whatever dark colour like that line is, I'll do some of that, and we'll paint some roots in there to look like her hair has grown out a little bit. Where's Spike? Let me have a look at Spike a second. I'm just looking at pictures of her hair and trying to figure out what levels of blondness and brownness, not a word but it is now, she has in actual, you know, when she's on the show, and what I can do to make this realistic. So there is that colour there is the darker colour, there is the yellowy colour, so there's that colour and there's a lighter version of it. Okay, so that bit, I'm thinking out loud here, so forgive me if you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just figuring out bits that I've done, which bits match the real bits and which bits I need to be focusing on. So that yellow bit plus that blonde bit and even more blonde can go all the way across there, and a big stripe there and some random bits around there. Okay. Okay. Ow, just stabbed myself on a thing. I stabbed myself on a thing. Right, I mean, try and get rid of some of that paint. Let's get some of this colour, you know, chuck some water in, thin it down a bit, because I need it to be thinner. So get some of that yellowy colour. Okay, so I'm just adding more of that yellowy brown colour. Because that's quite close to how I want it to be. But I still need some separation and definition, but I don't want it to be too weird and stripy. So I'm adding some bits where there's the yellowy brown. Like these bits that I added here, so they're just thicker, sort of thicker strips of the colour on her head, but then going over some other bits with like a thinner wash of the whole colour, just to tie it all in and make it feel like it's like a big, the main body of the colour is based on that colour, as opposed to just being separate stripes, which it sort of is at the moment. Oh, excuse me. Okay, that's looking good. I'm liking that. A little bit of dust stuck to it, or you know, hair, dusty hair. Okay, I like how that's looking. And we're going to go in with some more browns. We're going to do the dark root bits. We're going to do some other browny bits mixed in, and a few more highlights and a few more shadows. But that was a good hour of painting, because that's a really good base now for the details of the hair that we will put on in the next video. Excellent. Okay, well, let me, what do I need to do? Change cameras. That'll help, Darren. I do not know what I'm doing anymore. Main camera. Hi. Right, oh my god. This beard is going everywhere today. Attractive. Okay, so that was part 17, maybe. I think that's what I said. It doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna check anyway because it's going to annoy me if I don't know. Yes, 17. So that was part 17. Thanks for watching. We did quite repetitive work on the hair, but important work on the hair, and it's now looking more realistic, and it's more in the direction that we need it to go, so we can add more of the details, a few more highlight bits, like thinner highlight bits, some more shadows, some more browns mixed in, just to vary it a little bit. We've been using quite the same colours there. We'll throw some extra things in. I will probably do this bit, in fact, you know what, I'll probably do this bit next, but off camera, because I'm just going to be painting that piece exactly the same way as I've just been painting that piece. So I'm not doing anything different. I will do that off camera to save you watching me paint another hour of more stripes without saying anything. So I'll do that myself. Just so, because I'm going to use the same colours I've mixed here, so at least I know everything is even and, you know, matching. I could do it separate, but then I'd have to mix the colours and try and get them right. And I've got a load of them here, and they haven't dried yet, so I'll do that. It makes sense. So in the next video, we'll do the other bits. We'll do the roots along the parted line. Where's my? Can't even. There you go. There you go. There's a good example of when you've got hair that's been parted one way and another way, and you see skin. I mean, if you're bald like me, then you see lots more skin. But on everybody, most of the time, you see a little line of skin. So that's what we've done on her. It looks like a painted line at the moment, but when we add the darker roots, that will be along either side, so it'll be like boop, 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 boop. When I've done those and the dark roots go over that little line of skin, it'll look more like it's set back. So we will do that, and we'll add the highlights and all of the stuff that I just said. And I don't know how much of the next video that will take. Hopefully we'll get it done quite quickly, and then we can move on to carrying on with the skin and doing eyes and makeup and whatever, all of the interesting stuff, trying to make her not look like a partially painted figure, but to try and make it look like her, to give her some skin, to make her look alive, because I've got some really good close-up pictures of Sarah Michelle Gellar from about the same time period, so I'll be able to do proper details around her eyes and try and get the skin texture right. It's a very smooth skin texture. There's not much texture there to do, so we don't want to overdo it, but it'll be important to try and get something to it. Otherwise it just looks like you've taken an action figure and you've painted one colour to replace another colour. I want it to look, you know, that thing that we do where you look at a thing, it's like, whoa, you know, that reaction, that's kind of what you want to get. So we'll do that. Hopefully we'll get to do some of that in the next video. If the next video takes the whole video to do the hair, then I will apologise in advance, because it'll probably be more just me painting stripes and being very quiet. But if it is the case, then I'm not apologising too much, because it means it's important and we need to do it. So whatever it takes, that actually should be the motto. When you're doing these things and you're trying to make them look realistic, the motto is whatever it takes. So if you have to paint for 4 hours doing tiny little things, it's what we do. And the results always work out well for it. So it's worth it. I will try and keep it to a minimum for you though. I don't mind sitting here for 6 hours painting a tiny little thing and doing the same thing until I get it right. But it can be quite boring for you, so I try and keep things moving when I'm doing these videos. I mean, when I was doing these, wrong shoulder Darren, these Star Trek figures, when I sculpted the heads for those, I haven't got examples, oh, they're on the other side of the room, the Kirk, Spock and McCoy heads, and I sculpted them in wax. They took me, it's the reason why I don't do sculpting commissions or don't do sculpting as a career or as part of my career, because I was supposed to, the guy who did those now works for QMX and is doing all of their Star Trek figures. So he did a batch of, a group of the original series figures, and he's now doing, they've just brought out a Picard head figure, I should say, and he's working on all of their stuff. And I was supposed to be the person doing the sculpts for all of these figures coming out. And I did these ones, and I realised through doing these ones that I can't sculpt fast enough. And I knew I wouldn't be able to sculpt fast enough to keep up with someone who's doing it for, a company in the industry. Because each of those heads, so you got Spock, you've got Kirk, and you've got McCoy. Each head took me 3 months to sculpt. And I'm talking 12, 13 hours a day, all week, 3 months to sculpt. And I was pleased with the end results. They're not brilliant. I struggled with, camera's gone bright again. I struggled with sculpting to a certain size. I should have done it digitally. I'd never sculpted digitally, using ZBrush or whatever. I should, let me just, gone from too bright to too dark. Brilliant. If I was sculpting it digitally, not that I know how because I've never done it before, but if I was doing that, I wouldn't have had the problem. My problem was sculpting to a certain size, because the heads need to be a certain size for the figures. And when I was sculpting those ones, they needed to be a little bit bigger, because apparently they shrunk 5% or something when they were getting made. So I had to make them a bit bigger. But then when I was doing that, in trying to get the likeness right, I might have like part of it that was perfect, I'd work around the rest of the face. And what happened was with Kirk and McCoy, I ended up with heads that were too big for the size that they needed to be. And if it was on a computer and I was sculpting them digitally, then I could have just shrunk them down. Because these were big lumps of wax, I couldn't do that. So what I had to do is mold it, make a cast in wax, and I shrunk it a little bit, make a mold, cast it in wax, until I got the right size. Now the problem is when I did that, the shape of the face changed, and it ended up from being a Kirk sculpt that I was really happy with to being a Kirk sculpt that could have been better. Let's put it that way. I still like it. It looks like Kirk. You can tell who it's supposed to be. It's a good figure. It's still the best up to now. They're going to bring one out, I'm sure, and it'll be brilliant. But it's the best up to now movie Kirk figure that there's ever been made. So I'm quite proud of that. I'm proud to have been a part of that. But the fact that I had to shrink the heads to fit, and the head sort of distorted, because thin bits of the sculpt, so like the chin or the nose, as opposed to the width of the head, thin bits shrunk quicker when you were shrinking them down. So you ended up, instead of just having a head that's a bit smaller, you had a head that's a bit smaller, but a nose that was too thin and a chin that was too thin, and it just changed the shape of the face. Which is why any bits of those heads, those sculpts that I'm not happy with, most of it is because of that. But the whole 3 months per head meant that was why I knew I had to, frustratingly, because I wanted to do it for a living. I really enjoyed sculpting. I do enjoy sculpting. But I knew I couldn't do it if people were paying me to do it for, commissions. So I had to say no. I had to walk away from that and I had to tell him, sorry, I can't do this anymore. You're going to have to get someone else to do it. Which was really heartbreaking for me, because I thought that was going to be me doing all of the future Star Trek figures, and it should have been me. And all the ones coming out from QMX now should have been my sculpt. But my point, and there was one, is when I was saying about how I'm quite happy to spend 4 hours painting a little thing if that's what it takes to get it right. Now when I'm doing these videos, I try not to do that, and I try and keep things moving relatively quickly. But on those heads, I remember one time on might have been McCoy, I can't remember, I spent an entire week trying to get his nostrils right, and I just couldn't get them right, and I spent an entire week doing nostrils. And the frustrating part, on either that head or another one of the heads, I'd spent like a week or a couple of weeks actually doing the nostrils on the full nose. So 13-hour days sitting here sculpting tiny details, trying to get the face right. Eventually got it right, and I dropped the head and the nose cracked off the front of the face. Oh, there were lots of swear words shouted out that day. I redid it, and it took me another 2 weeks, but it was a lesson that I learned to be more careful when I was holding a thing. It was accidental. I mean, I was holding it, but I dropped it. So after that, I was like, okay, make sure you're holding it properly. But the point is, I'm quite happy to sit there spending forever doing tiny things until I get it right. Now I do try and hide it for you guys, but if it takes us longer to do the hair, that was my point. All of that was just to say this. If it takes longer to do the hair and get it right, we will take longer to do the hair and get it right. Because ultimately, the commission is the important thing. And bringing life to a thing in an accurate way is the important thing. And if you can do that in half an hour, that's wonderful. If it takes you 8 hours of doing something, fine. It takes me 8 hours. I don't mind. I just don't want to drag you along for too much of the same stuff. Repetitive. Anyway, I'm now going to go because I've been talking for far too long. Sorry. Have a good day, guys. Have a good week. And I will see you in the next video, and we will carry on with the hair. Hopefully get the hair finished, and then we can get on with the skin and get moving with this, because I want to, as much as I enjoy doing this, and I want you to see how to do this, because painting female characters, there's not that much of it, so it's an interesting series for people. But I do want to get this done, because there's lots of exciting stuff coming afterwards that has already been filmed. Biggie Smalls, Clint Eastwood's big statue, 12th Doctor with a sculpted neck, 4th Doctor. There's a load of interesting stuff coming. So I want to get this done, but not in a rushed way. I want to spend my time getting it right, and then we move on. So we will do that in the next video. So have a good week. I think you're probably in the middle of the week now. Have a good week, and thanks for sticking around. Thanks for putting up with me through all the talking. Thanks for putting up with me through all the quiet bits where I wasn't talking. And as always, ask me questions, send me pictures, send me messages, all of that stuff. and I will see you next time, and we will carry on and we will get more done on this little lady. So take care, and I will see you soon, and we'll carry on. Bye.